I'm wearing the same shirt as last year, so I'm gonna go change my shirt. Welcome back to the Scale Builders Guild. Thanks again for watching, and Happy New Year! This is getting to be quite the tradition around here on the Scale Builders Guild. It's time for me to go over the best builds from 2022 from the Scale Builders Guild forums. This is always an exciting time of year for me, and a time for resolutions. Mine is going to be less Lexan in 2023. What's your resolution going to be? Share your comments down below. You know I love reading through your feedback, and I try to answer as many of them as I can. And if you're enjoying this video, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you get updates anytime there's a new video from the Scale Builders Guild. Well, let's just get right into it. There's no time like the present. If you're not familiar with the Scale Builders Guild forums, it's where thousands of members share their fantastic scratch-built genius with the rest of the world. And I've gone through and chosen some of the better models from this year to share with you so you can get inspired, try new things, take this hobby to the next level, build on your already existing knowledge, try something different. Who knows? There's so many great things to be seen and so many great techniques to be learned from watching them develop on the forum. I cannot stress that enough. This is not like Facebook. This is not like Instagram. This is interactive. This is threaded. You can see a build progress as you go through the forum thread. It's really an amazing process, and to see things come to life is really the best part of it, if I'm honest. So let's get right into it. Okay, here's LoopOne's Volvo Sugga, and this was scratch built on the Traxxas TRX4. LoopOne used a series of blueprints that he found online, cut out, scaled up, and started to work with styrene. Styrene is such an excellent building material for our hobby. If you've never tried it, I've got a lot of tutorials on how to use it, but LoopOne's using a lot of really advanced techniques to make his truck come to life. And these are really complex round shapes, and they're hard to get. But if you go through the forum, if you go through his thread, he goes into pretty good detail about how to get these things to happen, and it's a very impressive body shell. I was really impressed with not just the detail, but the finish quality of how he was able to put this together. Lots of nice styrene accessories that he scratch built as well, and he really took this to the next level by doing a really nice, convincing paint job with a nice chipping technique, and that's how you get that sort of patinaed look. The finished pictures are amazing, and this definitely deserves a place in the top builds of 2022. Very impressive job. Well done, Mr. LoopOne. Up next from SBG member Pete30 is this really nice HPI Venture with a body from Cross RC. And while this isn't primarily scratch built, there was a lot of detail work put into this build that I think really puts it to the next level. Pete30 used his resin 3D printer and designed a lot of really cool accessories to put on this truck to really make it stand out. I believe that this was built with a reference to a full-size truck too, so it's really nice to see that sort of attention to detail being put into practice. It's also a great example of how sometimes you don't really need to go full out and do a scratch built build to really kind of share something awesome. Sometimes it's just attention to detail, like this great looking motor, which I believe is part of a kit, but was also kit bashed to kind of create some other elements. It's just a really nice looking build, very clean and very unique. And that's something that gets some attention on the Scale Builders Guild. And it's great to see the HPI Venture being used in a build too. Nice work, Pete. Thanks for sharing. No Best Builds of the Year video would be complete without a build from Joe122, or Scott Lempert, as he's more commonly known as. He's taken a couple of RC four-wheel drive Blazer bodies, cut them up to make a long wheelbase double cab Chevy pickup. Also used some 3D resin printing techniques to help make this thing come to life. And a Red Cat Lowrider chassis, which is just amazing. He was able to stretch that in order to make the wheelbase work. And again, it's all about taking existing things and creating new things from them. And I think that's sort of one of the sort of main points of the Scale Builders Guild is you don't always have to start from scratch. Sometimes it's about taking existing elements and redoing them to make them work for you. Just like this whole truck you're seeing right here. I really like the Lowrider concept and how Scott was able to make it work for him. The cool humps in the rear sort of bed cover there is also pretty neat. And there's some really nice pinstriping going on there too. All in all, a very unique build, and one worthy of being on the list here, the Scale Builders Guild Best Builds of 2022. Casper, as it's affectionately known. And I hope that Scott posts some video of it actually working on that Red Cat Lowrider chassis. That is pretty awesome. Thanks for sharing, Scott. JR Kilburn brings us a very fun build, and of course it's a 6x6, so you know I'm already interested, and it's a Toyota Land Cruiser, so you have my attention. He did a great job of modifying a TRX-6 to have a shortened wheelbase and in a completely different drivetrain. Here's an RC four-wheel drive motor mount with transmission and transfer case. And he did a little bit of styrene work to rebuild the transmission tunnel, extend the rear bed to make it a 6x6, and also change the overall dimensions of the cab to make it a single-seater and have that roof transition nicely there. Full aluminum RC four-wheel drive engine bay, and raw 500 servo up front, and all the fixings too on that motor. He also did some woodworking. Those are real wood plugs instead of nails to make that whole rear kind of crate situation work very nicely. And he chose a really beautiful color too, sort of a turquoise. Nicely detailed engine bay with all the wiring and tubes and hoses and such. Very nice work on that. And some subtle weathering as well to help really sell the whole look of this really unique 6x6. I think he did a fantastic job, and really happy to see this. Great work, Jeremy. Thank you so much for sharing this on the forum. It's a real pleasure to have seen it. And now for a couple of special mentions. While this truck was finished not in 2022, I felt it definitely deserved a place, and that's Nuge's forward control Jeep. This is a really fantastic build, finished in 2020, believe it or not, and I somehow missed this one, but it's built on a C-Max shortened chassis and completely designed and printed by Kevin himself. He did a lot of really cool work on this, and I got to see it in person this summer, and I knew that I had to give it a special mention. I definitely recommend you go check out the build thread. It's a pretty spectacular build to see come together. Great job, Kevin, and thank you so much for sharing it. Now, I thought I did a pretty good job on my Sandscorcher, but it pales in comparison to Fab 110's, and this is another special mention because it's not completely finished, but I did want to shout it out. He did all of this metal work himself at home in his shop. Everything from the cage design to the chassis redesign to all of the metal elements on this Sandscorcher, everything's been replaced. It's really incredible. I think he kept the front suspension and the rear motor mount. That's it. Fabbed his own inner fenders from metal. It's just the amount of work that went into this is astounding, and it's really, really spectacular to see. Not many builds like this come along very often in any place, not just on the forum, but anywhere. And to see the amount of work that he's putting into this on this very old platform, he's really updated it and made it really, really special. And I think this is going to be one of those builds that lives on in infamy and really deserves your attention. So I highly recommend you go check it out. All of the links to all of these builds are in the description down below. And believe me, you will be completely amazed at what you see there. Thank you, Fab110, for sharing this with us. It's spectacular. And there we go. That's going to do it for this year. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for participating if you are already a forum member. If you're not, I highly recommend you check it out. It is free to join and is free to participate. You can pay a little bit more and get some bonus features. Otherwise, enjoy the forums. I will put a link down below where you can check all of those out. And if you missed last year's build, that's right up there for you. Thank you so much for watching. Happy New Year. Happy building. And enjoy 2023.